Hey guys, quick reminder that I am fundraising this week for a new home studio so I can improve the audio and visual quality of my content. You can learn more information about that at donswriting.com/studio. Thank you so much to everybody who's supported me so far. Your generosity means a lot. I will stop talking about this on July 30th, so if you are bothered by this sort of fundraising push, don't worry, it will be over soon. Now, on to the main issue, what I wanted to talk about today. So I'll start out with a narrow version of the question, which is I've heard from people who want to start podcasts or who have started podcasts and who wonder like, well, I don't have, this network of influential people and I don't yet have a big audience. And so how am I going to go about getting guests for my podcast? And one of the really interesting things is that I found this to be surprisingly easy. So every podcast I've started was just reaching out to people that I was interested in talking to through email and asking them. And I would say the majority say yes. And almost none of them ask, well, how big's your audience or who are your other guests? Now, once you get a couple big name guests that way, it's great because then you have a lot of credibility just by virtue of the guests. And then hopefully over time, as your audience gets bigger, again, it gets easier and easier. There's guests who are out of reach who you can get. And I think part of what is going on when people are hesitating to reach out to guests is they're projecting a kind of like level of deliberate selectivity about how to spend their time that is not necessarily true of a lot of people, particularly if you're not talking about like A-list celebrities, but you're talking about, well, I really like this columnist or I really like this, author or something. A lot of people make kind of impulsive decisions and they just will, or they just like doing interviews. They like talking to people. They want to get their message out and they don't care whether their audience is 100 people or 10,000 people. So the Gary Vaynerchuk puts it, says, don't say no for people, make them say no. But I think often what's going on is that we have this fear of people saying no. And so we want to like in effect say, well, how do I have a bulletproof system of convincing people to say yes? And you can't. So you just go out there and love the no's because that will lead to yeses. And with podcasting, at least my experience has been people say yes a surprising percentage of the time. And if they don't, you literally lost nothing. Like I've had a lot of fear in the past of like, well, I don't want to interrupt people or I don't want to be presumptuous or something like that. But you really have to take seriously that if a person ignores your email or says no, they've forgotten about it within the next 20 seconds. Like you are not going to run into them at a party, or even like if you ask them 3 years later once you build a big audience, like it will never happen that somebody's gonna go, oh yeah, didn't you try to get me to come on your show and had no reason to expect me to say yes. So like I think the larger lesson here is just ask. Steve Jobs had this really great quote, as he often did, about like most people don't succeed because most people don't ask. And I think he told the story about when he called up Hewlett Packard as a kid and asked for certain parts, and it gave him this new opportunity to go and visit the company. I think worked there for a little bit because he was willing to ask. And so another way to think about it is like not just that you can actually get yeses when you ask, but it's learn to lust after the no's. Learn to actually find a certain pleasure in that. And I really think that that's possible because it's very similar, I think, into something like exercise, where people are very big into exercise. They experience the pain in their mind. It's mentally linked to the rewards, to how great they're going to feel after, to how healthy they'll be, how much energy, how good they'll look. And I think you can link the experience of getting no's to that, which it's when you get a no, is a confirmation that you are engaged in a process that will lead to yes, that will actually lead to the achievement of your goals. And then you can go one better by extracting knowledge and information out of that no. So you can actually sit down and be thoughtful about the experience But don't be too thoughtful too quickly. So one of the mistakes will often be you'll get 3 no's in a row, and then it's, oh my God, my approach is wrong. What can I change? Sam Ovens, I think, gives the standard of you need 30 attempts to close before you have real data from the market. And I mean, that seems a little arbitrary, but it certainly, I think, is in the right ballpark of you don't jump too soon to any pessimistic or optimistic conclusion just from a handful of instances. So there's a lot more I want to talk about podcasts. I think it really is a good way to start making a foothold in building an audience in whatever you're going to do. Though I'd like to see people be more strategic about it. I think the default, and I say this as somebody who did exactly what I'm going to raise as a criticism, is, well, I'm just going to have an interview show and I'll have guests and that will be my podcast. But I think there's kind of quite an abundance of that today, and that's not to dissuade you, particularly if you can have a fresh angle and surprising guests. But if we have another 100 podcasts on personal success that have the same 20 New York Times best-selling guests, again, you're going to have trouble standing out and breaking through the noise. But that said, if you are going to go the guest route, just ask more widely in life and in your attempts to build an audience. Just ask. The benefits to not asking are what? At most, it's you're protecting your feelings. You're protecting yourself from feeling rejected. That is a very low level of benefit. And the benefits of asking and getting those no's and eventually using that knowledge to get to yes are unlimited. So go out there, earn some no's, pay your dues, and if you do launch a podcast, I would love to hear about it. And if I'm relevant, come on as a guest, even if your audience is small. So hit me up, let me know, subscribe to the YouTube channel, make sure to like this video, and go to donswriting.com/studio in order to give me money. All right, talk to you guys soon.